Hi, it's Leo from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Do you love colour as much as I love colour? If you want to put colour on your furniture, this video is the video for you. Today I'm throwing loads of colour at this piece and I'm using stencils to create a Frida Kahlo sideboard. Okay, so this is a horror show. It really truly is. What has happened to it? This piece had a mirror on the back, no mirror now. I filled the holes for that and I'll get Matt to run over the piece in a minute. This drawer here kept falling in the back, so Martin's put the pieces to stop it falling in on itself, and they've been clamped for a good few hours. So we'll just take the clamps off this part. I was intending to put the handles back on this piece because they're actually quite nice and I'll show you them, but I won't be now because I've found different handles. I've already sanded this one because another thing as well, when I took the handles off, Martin took the handles off, the hole behind the furniture was huge. So I had to fix that. What is wrong with it and what is right with it? What is right with it? It's a lovely shape, lovely legs, like the bottom, really nice. Got a lot going for it in that respect. Got a lot of chips, dings. I've had to fill the edge of this. There's a bit of veneer that just a bit of the wood had just chipped off, so that's had a bit of wood filler. The holes have been filled, the holes on the top. It's the top that has suffered the most. I mean, look at it. Look at this. It is not beautiful. So what I'm going to do next is these are the holes where the mirror was. I'm going to sand these holes. Remember when you take handles off to go around here as well, because there's a build-up of varnish, so you have to kind of sand right round. So this one's been done. This one needs done. These are going to be done. I'll show you the handles now. Top tip, this is what I do when I remove my handles. I put them into sandwich bags, Ziploc bags. These were the handles. They're nice. Can you see them, Matt? Do you want me to sit them down on the white? Okay. So those are the handles. They've got back plates as well. So that's how these look. These are nice, but I'm not going to put these back on. I don't think. They're going to be a little bit too ornate for what I'm going to be doing. And I think these are the handles that are going to go on it once it's done. Either these or these, I'm not quite sure. I think these are going to look a bit heavy. I think these are the choices. What we're doing today? Today we are going to be doing a Mexican piece. My love of Frida Kahlo continues. So first thing I'm going to do is, and I'm not even going to get you to watch me doing it because it would be very dull, is I have Annie Sloan's Capri Pink here. I'm going to paint the whole thing pink twice. 2 coats of the Annie Sloan paint. How am I going to paint it? I am going to paint it cross-hatch motion to get loads of texture in the not too bad areas. In the parts that are all chipped, I will be stippling. So cross-hatch and stippling. And then once it's had 2 coats and they're dry, we will get to doing all of the great fun parts. So stay tuned. See you in a minute. Okay, it's dry. It's had 2 coats of the Capri Pink. I taped my drawers just so that I could get everything in and out quite easily. Just double your masking tape over, make little tabs. Right, okay, so what is today going to be? It's going to be very sort of mixed media, a lot of different things, but I'm going to use the aid of a lot of different stencils. I've currently got a rose stencil which is soaking in my sink, and I've got some parrots that I want printed out that are going to go on this. But the thing is to look in your stash and see what you think is kind of going to go with the vibe. It doesn't have to be a Mexican vibe. You can pick any vibe you want. Just look through your stash and find what you've got. So this is what I have found. I've got this folk art stencil that I think I can probably make work. I've got this folk art stencil. I know this one's an Annie Sloan one. I think this one's a Made by Marley one. Not that they're out yet, but we've trialed something, right? So that I've forgotten the name of this one. It's not particularly, it's more Indian than Mexican, so I'm not quite sure about this. I quite like this. I thought that was quite zhuzhy. This is called Mexican Birds. It's an Annie Sloan one. I thought I'd use the Cubano tile on the top, and the piece de resistance, I got a Frida. Okay, so I think we're just going to chill. What are you laughing at?
Nothing.
I've got a Frida. I'm going to keep, I don't know how I've managed it, but I've got pink paint on Frida already. Let's set Frida over there because she's not necessary right now. all I'm trying to say is go to your stash, find what you can find that will go with the, there's the culprit of the pink paint. It's on there. See that? I've got coffee. So what I'm going to do next is a little bit left field. I did warn man before we started. I want texture, but I want texture around here. So think one frame, the top is one frame and the side is a frame. And I want distress and texture to go around the edges of these. And when I woke up this morning, I don't know why I've never thought this before. Now, it might be like pants because I haven't even tried this. I just thought, oh, I'll try it today.
You're going to like this one.
Well, we don't know if you're going to like it. It's just a bit left field. So I've got my Annie Sloan mix mat here on the ground. I'm just going to kind of try and get it more on here because I think this could maybe potentially end up getting messy. I've got a roller. I've got a big roller here. Now, these are my colours for today, and I'll run through them quickly. I've got Frida Blue, which is a nice bright cobalt blue. I've got Barcelona Orange, which is orange. I've got Florence, which is turquoisey blue. I've got Furrow, which is a limey sort of chartreusey green. I've got Giverny, which is a bright blue. I've got Provence, which is a lighter blue. I've got Tilton, which is yellow. Scandi Pink, which is a pink. Capri Pink, which is our base. And I've got some black. Okay. Now, I don't want it, so let's have a look at cool and warm. I want to pick the cool tones out. So we know that that's warm, but we know that that's cool. Is that right? Yeah. Ignore the black. It's got nothing to do with it. These are my cool tones. I'm putting these all on first on my distress round the edges. We're going to use the pinks and things for flowers and to kind of, I am probably going to add a red in as well, but I just didn't want to blind you by size. To be honest with you, this is one that you don't have to use the colours I'm using, just use whatever colours you want. If you have got a basic paint, like furniture paint your piece first, and if you don't have all these colours, just paint it with acrylic after that. We were talking about this in our channel membership last night, talking about, you know, how to get to where you want to do when you're starting out and things. So as long as it's had a good coat, it doesn't need to be, you know, like an expensive paint. You can just get a wall paint and add plaster of Paris to it, make your own chalk paint. It is as good as anything. Let it harden up and then just paint with acrylics over the top of it. As long as it's sealed and it's cured, it will be absolutely fine. So my piece has been painted, 2 coats, ready to go. So I've got my mix mat here and I've drawn a little line on here with a Sharpie pen. I just got a Sharpie and kind of went like this because this is the sort of width. I carried my line over this side as well that I would like my border to be. Yeah, I think you know what's coming up. I want to keep one of these sorts of, I'll add another green later on. When I add my red, I'll add another green. So what I want to do is I want to do something like this. Yeah, I know. It's like kids painting, isn't it? I don't even know if this is going to look good, but it's going to be worked out in a minute, isn't it? Then I thought I would get a roller, or will I get a palette knife? I think palette knife might do something a little bit more exciting. And I thought I would do something like this. I'm not melding them together too much. I don't want too much of a muddy mess. I want them to try and keep their colours. I'm picking this up. I'm taking it. Oh, do you know what else you could do at this point if you wanted to? You could get your, like a stir stick, and you could make patterns in it. So let's just do something like this as well. This is what I woke up thinking this morning. As soon as I opened my eyes, I went, I wonder if that'll work. So we're about to find out if it does. So I'm wanting a sort of border around here. So let's just pop that on here. I imagine it's going to take a little while to dry. Then we want to kind of squidge it a bit, I think. I think the squidging might help. Yeah. Sorry, but this is actually really quite exciting. There's quite a lot of paint on that. I think maybe I should go again on here like this. I'm actually quite giddy.
That is a bit mad, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Let's just see what this... I think this is quite heavy, but it's going to be very textured, that side there. Oh, I'm loving it. Right, I think I want to open my drawer and kind of flap my flaps in. Do this just now. I'll be able to get it back open because I want to go along here. And my only concern so far is I've got quite a lot of heaviness here, but I'm not so bothered if it kind of drips. Let's just bring that down there. Oh, Martin, what do you think? Do you like?
I do.
It's interesting, isn't it? This would be really nice for an undersea piece. Right, okay, so let's just try that again, but this time I'm not going to be as heavy-handed with the paint, I don't think, because I don't think it needs as much. Oh, well, too late. Some of that. And a bit of the feed of blue. Right, okay. Going up the top this time. I'm going to go this way.
No, you haven't done your swirls.
Oh, so neither I have, Martin. You keep me right. There's a reason why you and I make such a good team. Right? Swirls are on. Right. Okay, I'm going to do... How's the best way to do this? I think this way. So you understand what it is that I'm actually doing here. I'm creating a border with texture, with paint. This is just a layer. I mean, it's just a layer that is going to make it look awesome. All
Yeah,
right.
nobody else has used the mix map for this purpose.
we'll send it to Annie. Right. Okie dokie. Oh. I absolutely love it, but I think it might take about 3 years to dry, but we will see. I'm going to have to open this door now and put these in. Just that one, actually. I'll just put one in. I'm trying not to get paint all over the piece like I've just done. I think I can get another whiz out of this one. Let's just grab it again. It's kind of like being at school. You're experimenting, and this is how you learn, and this is how you find out what you know what you like.
Yeah.
And I think this is
How are
how
you supposed to know that you
yeah,
can do that without having a go?
without having a go. I mean, let's just talk about this for a minute. Look at some of this. It's going to look fabulous. And when I come back over with my next like layers of things, you know, like my stencils and things over the top, it's going to look so unusual and so interesting because we're going to put our warm colours over our cold colour. This here, yeah, I know. Because I've never done it before,
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure whether we should be keeping on washing our mix mat or not. I mean, this is a trial and error sort of kind of thing. If you feel it's a bit drippy, you can either kind of work with that or try and take some of it away. But I mean, I'm very happy with it. I just want to have a join up there. I mean, this is so textured. I'm just going to take some of this off here and just bring that down here and some of this blue here.
That's what to do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, you understand I'm going to turn this one into a frame. So I'm going to come down here in a minute. The top's going to have this all the way around the edges and both sides are going to have this all the way around the edges. And then I'm going to have to go and do something else because I think this might take till tomorrow to dry. But it's oh so textured. I watch makeup tutorials, and sometimes when I watch the makeup tutorials, there's a woman I watch who gets really excited. She goes, oh, look at that. I feel like I'm kind of doing this about paint. I'm going, oh, look at this. Anyway, I'm too giddy to talk about it. I have to stop the camera so I can just talk to Martin about it. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, so I've done the front, but I just came back on to show you. There's some parts that I'm leaving alone, like these parts here that I've got the little drops and there's nothing in it. But the parts where it went on a little bit thicker, I'm just getting my Annie Sloan stir stick and I'm just doing a sort of swirly twirly pattern in that as well. Just kind of like break it up a little bit and give it a little bit of movement. And I mean, I know what you're thinking if you're new to this channel, you probably never ever, you're probably already gone. But if you haven't gone, you're sticking with this process. This is absolutely fine. This is how we all grow and this is how we all learn and this is how we explore and this is how you create. So this is all good and it's all going to come together, I promise you. I mean, hopefully you'll have seen the start when I show the actual piece, which will make you keep going. But please, please, please try and kind of just stick with the kind of process and also kind of think about why things make you feel good. Why is this so dopamine rich for me? It just is. It's like child's art right now, and we're going to get to all the really finicky and the posh parts and everything else that people like. But right now, this is the good part. This is the
This was a woke up
happy
this morning
part.
and thought, I wonder if.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning and I went, I wonder if you could stamp something on an Anselm mix mat and rub it on with a roller. And so now I've done it. I feel like, you know,
Yes, you can.
I'm just going to be doing this all the time now. Anyway, I've got my top and my sides to do it. And as I said, this is going to take quite a while to dry before we can stencil over the top of it. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on it that there's nothing too heavy when it comes to running. I like how it stops here and goes into the pink. I really like this edge here. I'm leaving that the way it is. If there was any bits that I wasn't happy with, I just got my stick and what was the remainder was on my paint. And I find that the more impressions you do, the more paint you use up everything on your mat. So there's no wasted paint either at this point in time, which I'm not about doing. So I'm quite happy. I'm going to try and make that look like it's a run. Okay, right. I'm definitely going on to do it now. Okay, so this has been thoroughly dry. I left it yesterday afternoon all night and it's way the next day. So this is completely dry. How did it dry? Fabulous. I really like it. So now we're going to start working on our layers. So we've got our sort of kind of, obviously, I mean, you've got to think ahead. Frida's going to be going in the middle of both of these doors here. So we're kind of leaving this middle space alone right now, but we want to start adding our warm colours. And I pointed those out yesterday. So we've got Barcelona Orange, Tilton, Scandi Pink, Capri Pink, and the black will be coming to play later when Frida goes on. On my mix mat here, I have mixed up, I've also brought out the red because I said I was going to do that. And I'm going to order, I'm not going to order anything. My words are not right today. I'm going to add a dark green at some point, but we don't need that just yet because right now I'm going to use this. Now it's not completely Mexican, it's just a nice pattern, but I really liked it, so I think we should put this over the top of this. So let's start with the top row. Anywhere where I've got the current texture, I'm going to be going over the top of it with this. But before I do, I better put my glasses on because that might help the process. Right-y-ho. So I've got my big stencil brush. Remember, don't overload your brush because that's bound to create a disaster. And make sure your brush is thoroughly dry. I was using a stencil brush in the channel membership video and my stencil brush was a bit damp, and you're guaranteed to get bleed through. In fact, I almost guarantee it. So let's just see if this is going to be bright enough because we might have to add something else to it. Let me see. No, this is going to be just what I'm looking for. Don't go straight in with all your bright, the darker ones. Try and build it up in a sort of, you know, start with some of the paler ones and then build it up. Don't be going kind of like straight in with the dark because then it starts to get kind of muddy because then what you're doing is you're putting your lighter over your dark. So I'm just using the swirly twirly method. It's the same method I use all the time for stenciling. I don't do this. I don't think it gives you nice sharp stencils. Twirling it around. The thickness of your paint, I think, really does make a difference to your stencil work. So if your paint's a little bit thin, add a little bit of clay to it. There we go. So this is going to go down. I'll do this one next. I am literally, you've seen me do this, you don't need to see me now repeat it all over it, but this is going to go down here, round here, on here, all where this paint is, right? Once we've done that, I'm going to be coming in and picking out some of the, this is a really interesting stencil. Okay, it's not interesting because it's really dirty. I've obviously used clay on this and a self-sealing paint because it just doesn't come off. But I've had it for such a long time and I only found out it was soaking in my sink. I only found out this morning it's got the clear stuff that you peel off to stick the stencil on. So I got a bit giddy about that. Once we've done this, we're going to be coming in with some of the flowers, but not the whole flower, just to bring some flowers into it. After that, our next layer will probably be some of these birds. And I've got some parrots here, which I match this pink to this pink from a background. Now, if you haven't got the ability to do these kind of things, then just a parrot stencil. In fact, I have a parrot stencil. It's just not here, don't you? So, so this is what I'm going to use because I'm going to put some parrots on it as well. But this is the layering technique. So let's just get on with this one first. Okay, so I've done the orange round the distress, and now I'm starting to sporadically on this put some roses. So I'm starting with the red, and I'm just going into the stencil and getting the background red first. And I discussed the fact that I was going to be bringing on a different green. So I've got Amsterdam green here, which is really dark, sort of racing green. And I am just going to do in here with the green, like this. Now, while that's a little bit painty, I'm just going to move this and reposition it up here because this is the next place I'm going to do it here. Just so that it's up there. Right, now this one, you're going to need, what did I just do with my brushes? I think they're under here. You're going to need a red brush to paint in the rose. So you want to cover that whole shape with red. You don't need to be super precise. Now, why am I keeping it in a sort of stencil? You could paint all this in using the stencil, make it look like a rose if you wanted to. But remember, our Frida Kahlo is a stencil, so we want everything to kind of work together. So we don't want to take it too far. We're doing that. So we're doing that, and we're painting this in green. Yeah? The next thing you have to do is you have to let that thoroughly dry before you can work over the top of it. So I've got one here. Actually, I'll just stencil this one because I've just stuck it up there, and then we'll get to that one. So it's kind of awkward, especially on the texture, but you just have to kind of work with it. I think that pull tape is going to be in the way. Hang on a minute. Oh dear. Start that again. There we go. Just all the little things you have to work around. So we're putting a red on here to do the same thing that we did down the bottom. You can see how I'm covering it, the paint on that beautiful texture, and it's given the roses a real sort of texture that is I'm really quite liking, because it's got those layers of the distress underneath, and this is layers at its finest. You can just keep going. I mean, right, so I've got that red. I'm going in here with the green. Let's just get this one done before I show you the other one. Like that. And there's no other leaves, I don't think, that I've got to do on that one. Oh yeah, there's one up the top here. Just up in here. Right, let's remove this, and I'll paint that in a minute, like I did down here. But let's work to this one, because this one here is dry. It actually joins onto the one on the other side. So let's just get it right. I'm working with all these tabs, trying to get them all. There we go. I think that's pretty good positioning on this side. Pull that tab up, stick it on there. I'll tell you at this point that when I put it all back together, I let it dry. I'd let it dry so far with all the drips on it last night. And once it was so far dry and I knew there was going to be no more runs, I opened it all up, and this morning I sanded round all of the drawers to make sure there's no build-up. I still have to do it inside this drawer here because it's got green felt in it. It's nasty, so we'll have to kind of go back to that drawer. Right, so we've repositioned our stencil, as long as it stays. I've got so much masking tape trying to stick this down. Right, okay, let's just work on this side. So we're going to go in with a yellow, and I'm just using the same stencil brush that I had the green on. We're going to go in with the yellow, and we're going to go round our stencil with the yellow first, and that will kind of make a lighter green. Once we've got a lighter green, we're going to really dip in the yellow like this, and we're just going to kind of highlight and put some highlights on those green leaves, right? And on the red, you're just going to use a little touch of black. Now, black is okay because the stencil, the Frida stencil is actually going to be black. So we've got black on here, and then you're just going to kind of highlight. Remember, if you were wanting to make this look more painted, this isn't how you do it, but to keep it stencil form, I want to try and do that because it's got to match the Frida stencil. So let's just make sure that we've got that, how I kind of want that. You're going to remove this, and that's how it looks. Then what I did was, I've got a liner brush, I think it's a number 1 rigger brush. I've got some black on my palette down here, just here. It's a bit of a messy palette, but can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. And then what I'm doing is, I'm just roughly, it's just so that when you stand back, these roses really pop out. It's another layer, and sometimes you want layers to sit back, and sometimes you want to bring them out. And with the roses, because the stencil is going to be black as well. Maren, your stomach's making a funny noise. Hungry.
I think that was you.
Oh, was it me? Maybe it's me that I'm making a funny noise. Martin's been up and at it and doing stuff this morning already. You've been busy, Martin, haven't you?
I have.
Right. And I'm just going to do around this side as well. This side here isn't quite finished. And if you want to just accentuate the sort of centres, just kind of do something like that. Remember, we're trying to keep it in a stencil format though, so don't overwork it and turn it into like a precise sort of flower. That's not the look we're going for here. That leaf should actually be green. I can come back. That's what I said, I haven't quite finished. Now you're just going to go around your work, putting roses where you think you might want them. On this one here, I added a little bit more pink. Just kind of give that something to move. And I'll get Martin to show you this side because I've done all the roses. I haven't done those. I've got one here, one there, one here, a bit of one here, and one here. 2 in the centre. I'm going to be doing one here. I've got one here, so maybe one over this edge and a couple on here. This, what I'm doing here, I'm going to repeat on the top and on the sides. And when we come back, I'll get Matt to have a quick shimmy at the sides for you. But this is how it looks so far. If you want to make this one look like it's 2 separate roses, just do something like that. Yeah? This is it. This is what we're doing next, the roses. All right. So I did all the roses. I did them on the tops and the sides that I said I was going to do as well. So that's the roses on top of the orange, on top of the drips. So now we're going to start working on the doors. Now, first things first, you need a bucket of hot soapy water to put all your stencils in. I left this to dry overnight. I went away and did other things. So, I looked after my grandchildren again. I don't have a Saturday night. So, so this is completely dry again. So we're working on Frida on the cupboards. So what have I done? I've got some Scandinavian pink and some, well, I did have Barcelona, I'm leaning on it, Barcelona orange, and I've mixed up an orange. I'm trying to keep it within my colour palette, so her face is going to be quite orangey, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. Now, how do you get the face orange but the rest black? I'll show you what I do. I'm not saying it's right, it's just what I do. So just going to get a tiny little artist brush. It's not that big, it's just small, this size. So,
Does that again?
Yeah, it's just a small artist brush. We want the face to be peach and the neck to be peach. So what to do is just slightly overrun round this edge. Can you see what I'm doing? We're actually into the black, but remember, because this bit's going to be black, but that doesn't matter because we can cover that. So if you just twirl round there, like that, and twirl round here, which is our neck, and the same here. Yeah. When you remove this, you've got your shape to paint. So with my big brush, I'm just going to paint this all in peach. And obviously it'll be slightly over, but there's an awful lot of paint dribbling off there. But the over part will be under the black, if you know what I mean. So the black will cover that all up. It will all be good. Right, so that's there, and we'll just do that. It doesn't matter. So I am just going to stop the camera, and I'm just going to dry that, and I'll be back in a minute. So I just actually filmed a part and did it wrong. I had my stencil the wrong way round because I've actually done the other door and I need these flowers at this side this time, and I had them at the other side. So I flipped my stencil around. So I've got a bit of black in there, but I'm not actually doing the flowers because I'm doing my own flowers. So I don't need to worry about this because this is going to be covered up with flowers. But when you do it, just put it on the right way. If you're kind of like wanting them to be, you know, like kind of so they make sense. So I'm doing everywhere, but I didn't do her earrings because I put my own on there as well. So let's not bother with the earrings. Just kind of cover that up with my hand. And swirly twirly down here. It doesn't matter if some of that goes into the flowers. We just need our outline. Now it's going to look a bit weird up here when I take this off because of what I've just done, but we'll work with the weirdness. It's not a huge problem, and it's always good to just show you what to do with it. I want her nose, but I don't want her lips. This part here. Try not to touch up too much with beside her earrings. So I'm just going to let this dry for a minute and I'll be back in a minute. I'm just going to do her lips now with just an ordinary paintbrush. I've got some pink and some red. Now I do come in once this is dry and I move the gap of the stencil much closer together so it doesn't look so gappy. Does that make sense? This line here that separates the lips, what I do is I make it look less gappy. I think we want to put some highlight on the lips to blend that in. Right, okay, so let's remove our stencil. And this is how it looks so far. So what I need to do is I need to get my black and I'm just using my stencil brush here, and I just want to kind of extend this down a bit. Just a little bit. It doesn't need to be a huge amount, but just a wee bit. So just change my brushes. Go back to this little black one. Just bring it down into this flower, I think, on this side. And on this side, just trying to kind of, because I've done the other side, I want it to be, it doesn't have to be a carbon copy, but I do want it to be kind of like it. So let's just smooth this edge up here. We are battling quite a bit of texture. Yeah, I think that's about right. There we go. So I'm just going to dry this, and we'll come back and we'll do a little bit more. Believe it or not, this paint was, you know, when we did the detail and we put it on with the Annie Sloan mix mat, I scooped the last lot that was left on my mat into this pot, and this is it here. And I'm just going to use it as nice and thick, and I'm going to use it for stenciling. So I'm just kind of offloading some of it and just maybe offload the rest onto my mix mat. So this stencil here, it's an Annie Sloan stencil. I've forgotten the name of it. It's nice, but I want to do some detail on her sort of jacket, if you know what I mean. So this is just a matter of looking through the black and seeing where the jacket is and not going over it. But if you go over it, it's not going to be the end of the world. I mean, this is not your lace work here. It's just a jacket. No. Do that. And maybe do with a little bit more paint here, and maybe this here. Could do with a side shape for this part here. Yeah, and so I'm just going to do the same on here. Just find a bit more paint for more. This is why you should always keep paint, because I mean this is quite a nice colour, and it was just all the stuff that was mixed together. How we did it was we did it together, didn't we, Martin? Martin, you know, when I did all the drippy stuff on the mix mat, Martin kind of like, he did this sort of, he cleaned it every time I needed to clean mat, he cleaned it, and he helped me hold it at the awkward places. So, you know, we kind of did it together, Martin, didn't we?
I think you're giving me too much credit.
Well, not really. Well, I thought you did a good job.
Well, thank you, darling.
No. Am I happy with this? Maybe one last shape down on here. Yeah, right, so that's our jacket done. Now what did I do next? I took the faded blue and put a little bit of this on my palette. Now you're going to need things like script brushes. I'm just going to add some water to this to just soften it a little bit. That was quite a lot of water, maybe not as much as that. And I want to give her some blue eyeshadow, because obviously this is my interpretation. What did I do next? Now what I need to do is I want to try and do a sort of, I'm going to have to stop the camera because for some crazy reason I haven't got a water pot to clean my brushes. 1 minute. I'm just doing a line round here. Just some yellow. I also, just as a side note at this point in time, put some yellow kind of highlights around my roses. So just while we've got the yellow out, we'll do something like that. Just to kind of make them pop a little bit from a distance. Yeah, it's just a bit of art. So there you go. That's as much as that's happening. Now, next thing, I did find the parrot. I have the parrot. The parrot is here. This is a really thin, nasty stencil. If you're buying stencils, you want a nice thick Mylar. I mean, if you look at this compared to this, I mean, this is not, but we can make it work. We can make it work. Now, let's just tape up Mr. Parrot here. I'm using a lot of tape today because I'm being pretty precise. Now, Martin, I'm using you as my guide here. You tell me whether you think that's about the same on this side as it is on the other. It doesn't have to be perfect, but, you know, I remember when I did the other side, this curl was on her forehead. So, but here, do you think?
I'm looking at his tail, where his tail sits. You obviously didn't.
I painted the tail down longer though.
Ah, right.
There's artistic license there. I would go by this sort of top here. Sorry, we're just discussing this on camera. Sorry how boring this is. I'm just going to go for it, Martin, because I
think you're too high. No, you're not.
I am or I'm not. Am I there?
Down a fraction.
There. I'm going for there.
You go there then.
I'm going for there. Right, I'm making a management decision. Now, I want to be doing this. I'm just going to, at the moment, use the same blue that I scraped off the mix mat, which I just did this colour here, this bluey green. I just need an outline because we're going to be painting it in with this. I just want to try and use this paint up, if I'm honest. So let's just kind of go like this over the whole thing so that we can bring them out first. We'll start putting these colours in a minute. There. Don't know what that's about, but we'll just add that in. Avoiding the flowers because we're going to put the flowers in other areas. Right, so there's our parrot there. Let's just remove him and paint him in. I think by now you're probably starting to get the sort of gist of how this is all done. I'm just now putting it all together and painting my parrot in so that when it dries I can come back over with loads of lovely colours. But I'm still trying to keep that stencil look. I'm not trying to paint it in and make it look exactly like a parrot. I want it to have that sort of stencil-y look. Now, Matty, this is where you said it's longer at this side.
It's kind of down level with a shoulder.
There. I'll do the rest with pen. So let's just kind of give them a suggestion of some feet in there at some point because you don't actually get that in the stencil. Right, okay, parrot done. Why did I use a parrot instead of the decoupage paper? Because I was so invested in the paint work on this one that I thought, no, let's just try and keep it as to what we want it to be. Now, while this is drying, because I'm going to put all these flowers in here, I am going to get this stencil here. I'm going to use the Frida Blue, and I'm using my big stencil brush for this one. And I am going to start putting some birds. Oh, let's get them going the right way. That might work. Round about here with this blue. I'm being quite, what's the word? It doesn't matter if there's some leaves, but I do want to pick out these stars or shapes or whatever they are. Stars, I think they are. Flowers, maybe even. Let's just do that as well. I don't want too much leaves in it. And let's just do here. The trick is not to oversaturate it with things. Well, that's a stupid thing to say, Leslie, but you know what I mean. I'm wanting them. I can come back in with a smaller brush when it comes to, which I'm just going to do now. Just find this isn't a stencil brush, but this will work just fine. So that I can get just these little shapes. You can see how very quickly, let's do these two as well, you can build. I'm trying to avoid the big long leaves if I can, and I'm not wanting too much of them, but now you could use any stencils for this. And as I said, see these parts here that I've got a little bit of blue, I can sort those with a little bit of pink paint if I feel like that's kind of wasting my vibe. It might be so. Yeah, so think of a thing. If you get a stencil and you think, right, well, what can I do with this stencil? Don't mind that it's going over the top. It's layered. I want a few sort of stars and things up here. But you could do like Moroccan. Really, this look I think would really lend itself to the Moroccan sort of vibe. Sorry, Martin, I'm jumping about as per. It's hard to know where I'll go next, isn't it? Yeah, I'm thinking that's probably all I really want on here for the now. Right. Okay, so that part there's done. Stick this to the side. In fact, let's just pop that straight into the bucket right now, because I think that we can see that that one isn't going to be used for a while. That one's in the bucket, and for the sake of argument, I'm just going to put Frida stencil in the bucket as well, because it just makes them so much easier to clean. Ask me how I know. Right, let's get Frida in the bucket as well. She did. Right, okay. Now, while this is how you kind of work from one thing to another. You just have to keep jumping about on these looks while one part's drying. So I'm just going to do what I said I did with the lips, which is I don't like that great big gap. It's not nice. So using a script brush, I'm just going to make the less of a gap and kind of give her lip liner. Who doesn't like whoever's born in the 80s will appreciate a nice bit of lip liner. I'm a lip liner sort of woman. So a bit of lip liner. She needs that, and maybe a little bit of highlight just to make her lips pop here and here, and then blend that in, just like you do with your own makeup. Right, okay, there we go. Right, lips are done. Now, the parrot stencil is ended up being playing quite a pivotal part, even though it was a rubbishy stencil. I want to have some of these up in the hair. So, and it's the same drill. I'm going to only do a couple on here right now, because the reason why I'm only going to do a couple is because you now are starting to understand what it is I'm doing. You don't need to see every single thing that I do. So let's just do this one with the red. I'm doing the outline first before I paint it in, before I come over it with another colour. So, and I'm really not using a stencil brush for this one. I'm just using any old brush, because it doesn't matter if it's bleed through, because it's just the shape I'm looking for. And let's try this shape, this colour here, although I'm going to have to radically change this colour because it's the same colour as the parrot. Something like that. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a whole load of flowers in her hair. Once I've done the flowers, all the filled in colours before I come back, I'll come back next in a minute and do the parrot and the rest of the flowers. I hand drew, I'm trying to think, I need a sort of purpley colour. Let's see if I can get that mixed up quickly, and I'll show you before. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same as the other side, but you know, you can try. Right, something like this. And you can get a stencil shape and you can literally build a whole piece of art out of it and embellish it and do as much or as little as you want. And I think that's what today is really all. The paint is the star of the show. Paint and stencils. I may, because I said in the beginning I wasn't going to put any stamps or anything, but I might. I'm going to obviously put the Cubano tile stamp, I think, on the top and on the sides maybe. I think I kind of thought about it this morning. I thought Frida's on the side is going to be way too much. Or is it? Do you know, I might actually be quite daring today. It's going to make a lot more work. But I think I will actually, normally if it's really, really busy, and this is really, really busy, I wouldn't put so much heavily designed on the front. I'd planned to just put the Cubano tile on the top, sort of distressed look, and then maybe something running just across it. The sides I hadn't planned to put Frida on it, but I think I will. You know, Martin, when I said this won't take so long today, it's gone out the window already. I know, but they won't be seeing that on film. So I'll do these flowers, and then I'll do the toucan, the
parrot.
Budgie, the parrot. I'll do the parrot, and then we'll come back and we will put all the second coats onto this, and we'll try and get this whole piece finished. Once I've got this piece finished, we'll put two on the two sides, and you know what I'm doing there. So I'm just going to repeat that on the sides, and then we'll get to the top. The legs I'm going to keep plain pink. Why am I keeping them plain pink? I'm keeping them plain pink because something needs to be able to rest in this whole explosion of colour. And how do you often do that? Is break it up with colours, but also add some white. So at some point near the end, I am going to have to put some white in there just to make the brain go, right, okay, it's calmer there, that kind of thing. So, but that's where we're at so far. Okay, so my stencils are dry. I realised that I didn't go back over the top of them. I used Posca pens to accentuate these flowers on her hair. So just, you know, this is just pure artistic license at this point. I've got nice bright colours, so I'm just and I'm trying to keep it. Now, it is never going to look like the other side because it just isn't. Just doing something. leaf's going to go under there. Like this. I went back to the yellow for this one. Now, Matty, would you like to show them the other side so they know where my brain is going? So there's my stencil. I've outlined it all in yellow. So let's just do a bit of this here so you know. And that was just to make her pop. I actually thought at one point that I might actually do her face in blue and make her pop art. But I didn't. I then stopped that idea. Right, so that's been outlined in yellow. All these birds that I put on are outlined in this yellow as well. I did their beaks and pretty much just kind of went round them. I just went round the birds. On the flowers, I just put a dot. I can see I need to do a bit of cleanup here. I did the cleanup down here, but I need to come back up and do a little bit of cleanup there just to tidy that part up. But yeah, just trace around your birds, make them pop out so they're not as lost in all the other pattern. Give them their day in the sun. So that's what I did there. So the birds we've got covered. Give it me eye. So parrot, I did go back over with just various loads of different colours on my brush. Then the parrot really is up to you how you decide to do your parrot and what colours you do or don't use. I might do this one slightly different colours than the other one, and I want to have a sort of kind of almost like a sort of scrapey kind of like this, so that it kind of like has a bit of movement. I'm just kind of trying to look at the other side now. I lined this parrot with liner, so he's all gets lined in black at the end. I'm just trying to see where I need to put a bit more lime on this. This one here, let's just finish this one here. I just kind of did swirly twirly around in a circle. And all I do with these is just keep going over and over and over, adding lots of different colours. So with this one, maybe I'll put some of this in it. And I just did Poscas for it, for the flowers. I just made them all pop out. Now, once I got the flowers on, then I just went a little bit crazy. And I just did lots of sort of leaves and movement. And this is why I'm saying it'll never look like the other side. So I did some of this colour coming out here. This flower around her neck, it has some jumping around pattern. Something like this. Because you can see on the other side, I really went a little bit crazy. I put a lot of yellow in between here on this part of our corsage. I need to go around that flower in a minute. So I did all that, and then I came in with I highlighted some of these, and I also did some on their own right in yellow. The yellow focuses quite highly in the flowers. Yeah, so you just kind of make a lot of movement with your flowers and your yellow and your greens. Where I just used artistic license, because I just made this one here up. You could just do something like maybe go in with this blue and just highlight it with the blue and turn this one into a sort of rose. Something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just a suggestion. Now, up in here, let's just do this flower here. Now, I used these all came from that little palette stencil. And I did the same for our earrings. Now, in our earrings, let's just bring these out in the blue as well. A bit scratchy, sorry. But I'm not going to do much more and show you much more of this, because I think that I'm kind of like, you understand. There's nothing more I can explain to this. I just then made everything pop with pens. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this side this side here to look more or similar to this side here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do both my sides the same as this, with my parrot and the flowers and there. And then we'll get to the Cubano tile on the top. I've got some bits here that when I put the distress on that's ran down the front of that leg, and I'm toying. I've not got many. I've only got one on this side here. I'm toying with keeping it there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that, but this is where we're at right now. So the next time you see this, we'll be on the top. Okay, before I move on to the top, I've got a little bit of white on my palette knife, just a little bit, and all we're going to do is just give it a little bit of something that's going to help it kind of breathe and move a little bit. So let's just kind of do something like this, maybe something here, just kind of little bits here. I don't like that, it looks like a splodge. We'll come back to that in a minute. Let's just work on that one there. It looks a bit splodgy. The thing is, you've got so much lovely texture, so it should be quite easy to kind of put it on without it being too much for the piece. I'm not going crazy with this. This is just probably, I think, let me put that white there for her. I think that's probably enough. I think that's all I'm probably going to do, because I don't want to have too much white on it either. So, you know how I've got that obsession with corners. Put some white up in here. Just little parts. Can you see what a difference that has made already? Is that quite visible? Because it makes sense to me that has already kind of opened it out a little bit. It's opened it out a bit more. Or am I just talking through a hole in my head? Right, okay. So we've done this much. Cubano tile. Now, pondered this for ages, thought, shall I leave it, shall I not? Shall I leave it, shall I not? And then I thought, how can I do that it's not going to look too heavy? And then I thought, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll stamp this with black ink and we'll put it on. And then we'll come back. Once it's dry, we'll put pink on top and we'll distress it back. So this is what my plan is. So another reason for a little bit of white is, remember my handles have got a little bit of white and black in them as well. So when you put them on, they're going to, although my white is brighter than this white, but these handles I think are going to be chef kiss on this piece. Anyway, let's just get up the top just now and see what I can do with up here. Oh gosh, I got dizzy there, Martin. Okay, so let's just go for it now. I think maybe the trick on this is I don't think it matters if you're going heavy or light or missing parts out, because we're going to distress it back anyways. Let's see. I did put extra ink and charged my ink pad before I started this process, because I do want it to show up. When I made the commitment, I thought, well, I want it to show. I'll tell you what I'm going to do though. I'm going to do something like this and start here. That was bold, wasn't it, Martin? I heard you didn't take a breath. I heard you go. Just don't know what I'm going to do next. What an exciting life you have though, eh? Or not?
I don't know what to say.
Right. Aha. Now, next one. Now, some people do this with their ink. I think it kind of ruins your ink pad a little bit. So just going around the edges with it though. And I'll show you that. So I suppose it's just preference. You're just going to have to put up with the banging right now. Now, I'm just going to butt this one up beside this one. I'll tell you my thinking of why I did what I did. I wasn't sure whether I was going to have to piece a little part in here at the edges, and I thought by starting central, it's easier when two pieces are a little bit, like there's little bits pieced in the side, but I don't like it when it's like a whole half piece. It just looks a little bit silly. So there is method in my madness, Martin. It just doesn't always look apparent. Aha. Now, next thing. So once I've done across the top, I'm rushing so I can show you how it's going to kind of go. I've got so much paint at my feet that I have to make sure that, I think that might have been a slight squint, but never mind. Now, next bit you're going to have to be a wee bit careful for, but I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of odds, is we only want a little bit for this part here. So let's just, see? Now, let's just kind of ink up this little part here. Let's see. And now, you're going to kind of have to tippy-toe around everything here. I mean, you could make a mask, but who's got time for that? Not me. So, there we go. Yeah. And the same with this little part over the other edge. Oh, I need to do this with it. Did I ink that side up? Now, I really want to get rid of this as well, so I'm going to be even braver. And just do... Because see what I'm doing? I'm kind of holding the tile down, but I'm not touching it up against the furniture. I just want it to look like it doesn't go to the middle of nowhere, and that's quite important. Oh, Martin, you're not keeping me right here. I don't have much that can fit in here, if I'm honest. The shape here. Yeah, and I don't know if it's worth even doing this part here, but we've started, so we're finished. I think it's just really you're going to get the line, but I need to do something with this here. Touched up with my ink pads. Good job. I'm going over to distress it now. Now we've got it to this stage. Eh? Oh, beg your pardon, Martin. Flip it over. Just do something like that. There we go. Now, we have come this far on this journey. Now, what we need to do now is, you could do, see, now I'm thinking lime in between here. I'm just going to get some, here we go again. It's my own fault that I do it to myself. I'm just thinking, I'll put my mix mat up here for a minute. I'm just thinking that if I just want some water on this. I might have to go and get a skirt brush. But I'm thinking I might just do in here. Now I'm still going to distress it back. So I'm not looking for perfection here. Just roughly kind of put a bit of colour in here, I think. I think that's going to give it that sort of rusticy look. Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone this far.
100%.
I'm not going to shy away from it now. See, can you see what I'm doing? I'm roughly kind of doing it. I'm not being precise. I think the least amount actually without water on your brush is going to be probably a better technique, because it's going to look more like sort of kind of, I'm going to go on, right? And I'm going to do this now. And then we'll come back just at the end when I show you how you just basically are going over with the pink to distress it, but I'll still bring you back. Then after that, I'm going to seal it. And this week, I mean, I feel like I should have a bit of a fanfare, but I'm actually going to seal it with shiny sealer. So, just because I can. And I think shiny might be good. I'm not sure with the shiny. I'm kind of going to try and bring out some more of the texture. I could wax and it would bring out the colours, but the thing is, it's different with muted, washed, mingled looks. Wax is one for that. Oh, did you see that? That's really off. But when you're doing something like this with its solid colour underneath, when you wax it, it is going to bring out some of the colours, but it's not going to be mad, you know, like breathtaking. So I thought, well, I'm going to try shiny. Should I or shouldn't I? No, maybe not. Right, anyway, I'll go and do this and I'll be back very shortly with the rest. Okay, so I ended up putting my white up the top as well while I was doing that. My white on the sides, they're done. This has been dried. So what I'm wanting to do is get rid of some of this now. That sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just using the pink paint that I had to start with, so my Capri Pink. And what I'm doing now is I'm just eradicating some of it so it looks like it's worn away, and gives it that sort of distressed look. There, just take some of that away as well. Anyway, where I think it's a little bit too dark. Do you see what's happening there, Martin?
I do.
Now, some of those edges as well. Don't forget your edges, because it would wear more at the edges if it was going to be fading away. Sorry, Martin, I'm jumping about. Martin plays this game. Where is Lyle going to paint next? Hard to follow me, isn't it?
Yes. Sometimes.
Right. I'm getting quite giddy about this piece. I really like it. It's a little bit different. Well, I suppose everything I do is kind of a wee bit different, but this one is particularly different. And I taught myself that the new thing that I'm going to do with the mix mat, I think you will see that again for texture, because I really, really liked it. Don't be scared to take some of that pink into here. You know, just some of that. Where you think it's maybe a bit heavy around the edges. Right, anyway, you know this, you know the score, you know what I'm doing. I'm fading this out a bit. You're not going to see it probably now until staging. You know what handles, you know I'm going to make it shiny. And then
Like a treasure from a
sunken pirate wreck. Scrub the deck. Told you Martin had a shiny song. Oh, I don't know what video it was. It was maybe channel members when I said Martin's got a shiny song. Anyway, if you ever watched
grandchildren
Disney's Moana, which Martin loves.
Well, Poppy loves.
Well,
so
yeah, well, probably.
So I must have seen it 400 times.
Not as much as you've watched Sing. How many times do you think you've watched Sing, Martin?
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, I know you do. Right, anyway, being a grandparent, I think I'm happy with this.
It's great. You get to do Disney all over again.
You do. You don't need to make any excuses, although sometimes...
And there's some great new films as well.
But sometimes what actually happens is Poppy comes through and is in the kitchen and Matty is still watching the Disney, and Jamie, my daughter, will say, "Where's Dad?" And I went, "Oh, he's still watching Disney." Right, okay, I think that's all I'm going to do with this. I think I'm actually really liking it. So we'll call it quits with that, because I mean, I could just go on like this all day, and I'm going out for dinner tonight. So that's all I'm going to do. Yeah. Okay, so it's finished. What did we do today? We had a base coat, and then we applied loads of paint, squeezed onto mix mat, rolled it with a roller to get the texture. After the texture, we applied some stencils. We did our Frida Kahlo stencil, and it's just a matter when you're using stencils to break up the colours so that you can change it around to make it look, you know, the way you want to. You can take your stencil in even further and have them really realistic, but I wanted, because the stencil format of Frida, I wanted to kind of still keep the stenciled edge. Was this difficult? Absolutely not. Did the mix mat make fabulous texture? Will I be doing it again? Absolutely yes. So all the colours went onto this. It's been sealed. It's shiny, and so it's actually had 3 coats of shiny. I'll tell you why, because I opted for this heavy sort of duty varnish because there was so much texture and it was very raised, and I wanted to make sure that it was all sealed in and secure. So that's what I've done. Martin supplied me new handles. What you didn't see me doing on camera, and I'll get Martin to show you, is I took the nasty velour and I did the drawer sides as well. Ooh, with the drawer sides as well. And what I did with the bottom cupboard was I just tidied it up a little bit as well and put some in the bottom of the cupboard and painted into here pink, just to keep it just nice and clean. It wasn't actually too bad in the inside compared to the exterior, but that nasty drawer couldn't be saved. I don't know if you've done lots of these kind of green felt drawers, but sometimes you can brush them out and they're not too bad. Sometimes you go to hoover them out and they're so thin and so nasty that they just break apart. So that was the end of that. So, okay. So I've been left made by Marley. I've been here with the lovely Martin. He's behind the camera. We will see you next Sunday. If you've liked this video, give us a like, give us a share, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave me a comment. And the most important thing is, could you please subscribe? We are edging tippy doing closer to 9k. I mean, that is amazing. It's amazing. It is like, it's mind blowing.
Yep.
So we're kind of, then once we get to 9k, we'll be tippy toeing towards 10k, and after that, I think, well, you must be bona fide if you're on YouTube if you've got 10k followers. Maybe not. Okay, so see you next week, Martin. Do you have anything to add?
Nope. Another crack at the mix mat painting technique was just inspired, and what the results were amazing. So yeah,
Yeah,
what?
That's good.
Who knew?
No, I know. And that's why you should always try things out, because the texture is really fab. Anyway, this is probably the longest outro in the known world. Anyway, see you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.